If you called me earlier today, I was talking about Whoopi Goldberg. Because Whoopi Goldberg was trending on Twitter. And when she was trending on Twitter, I got curious. But here's Whoopi Goldberg knocking this dude out, Hassan, going after him about how hard and how much work Joe Biden and all the old blue dog Democrats did for the world.
And I'm trying to express how, like, a lot of people that I know think and operate.
Yes.
Look,
yes.
One of the things the Republicans have done amazing, they hold the line. They're like, look, this thing's going to go to Senate, right? He's not going to get impeached. They're all going to hold the line, right? Look at what's happening with the Democrats. You have two existing bodies. You got the new woke party, that movement, and then you got the establishment. And they're eating each other alive.
You know what?
That's the truth.
That is not so. It is not so. Stop listening to the media who is leading you in a direction that is bullshit.
That's what you're hearing. The way they talk about Joe Biden, they're like, I cannot fucking stand this. The establishment. I'm sorry, that might be the big picture. I don't want to.
But here's the thing that you're missing. We've been doing all that work. That all these 5-year-olds say, well, y'all haven't been doing that bullshit. What do you think? How do you think apartheid changed? We did that. That's what Joe Biden did. Nobody does everything the way you want them to do it. But goddamn, do not put down the people whose shoulders you're standing on. You are standing on our shoulders, and we are holding the line. And for people to say, you're uninspiring, fuck you, uninspiring. What are you inspiring? Not you.
So I saw this trending, and I saw a lot of the comments, and they were very supportive of Whoopi Goldberg for the most part. For the most part. There were people just giving her all types of flowers and bouquets, rose gardens. Because she's telling the young people what they need to know and how much work the blue dog Democrats put in, and you're standing on their shoulders. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be where we are. So, a little bit of more investigation. I want to dig into this claim that Whoopi Goldberg made about Joe Biden stopping apartheid. And look, guys, I found a clip of a very impassioned speech that Joe Biden made 1986. He made a speech against apartheid. Fair, hold on. Fair is fair. Let's hear him out.
What disturbs me more than the policy that you call a policy is the rationale for the policy. The rationale for the policy. You set out 4 principles that you adhere to, and then and I will go over them in a moment. Then you say on page 14, we must not become part of South Africa's problem. We must remain part of their solution. We must not aim to impose ourselves, our solutions, our favorites in South Africa. Damn it, we have favorites in South Africa. The favorites in South Africa are the people who are being repressed by that ugly white regime. We have favorites. Our loyalty is not to South Africa, it's to South Africans. And the South Africans are majority black, and they are being excoriated. It is not to some stupid puppet government over there. It is not to the Afrikaners regime. We have no loyalty to them. We have no loyalty to South Africa, to South Africans. And the fact of the matter is I listen to this rationale, first of all. It is the leaders of South Africa and their people, black and white, who have the majority responsibility. They must rise to it. Well, they are rising to it. They're rising to it. The only thing left available to them with that repulsive, repugnant regime of Afrikaners there. And it's the only way they have. They've tried everything for the last 20 years. They begged, they borrowed, they crawled, and now they're taking up arms. The second thing, progress toward peace requires a timetable. Timetable, elimination of apartheid. What's our timetable? What are we saying to that repugnant regime? Are we saying you've got 20 days, 20 months, 20 years? We ask them to put up a timetable. What's our timetable? These people are being crushed. And we're sitting here with the same kind of rhetoric. The same thing we heard. We heard go slow. We heard we have to take care of the problem afterwards. We heard we can't impose.
You are totally misconstruing
me
the testimony that I gave.
Read first.
Furthermore, Senator, let me say that I hate to hear a senator of the United States calling for violence.
I'm not calling for violence.
That's what you're doing.
I hate
that is
to hear
exactly what you're doing.
I hate to hear an administration and a Secretary of State refusing to act on a morally abhorrent point. I hate to hear this country. I'm ashamed that this country puts out a policy like this that says nothing. Nothing.
Wow. Joseph Biden. Joey went to town for South Africans. I want people to keep it real, keep it honest, man. He was laying it out. I mean, he challenged the Reagan administration Secretary of State, George Shultz. Oh, okay. That's it. He challenged the Reagan administration Secretary of State, George Shultz. Get what's going on there? Yeah, he's grilling a Republican. He's playing politics. Whoopi's playing politics. He challenged the Reagan administration Secretary of State, George Shultz, on government policy towards South Africa. Our loyalty is not to South Africa, it's to South Africans. And South Africans are majority black, and they're being excoriated. Secretary Shultz was testifying about the possibility of sanctions against South Africa. Ronald Reagan had introduced sanctions the previous year that many believe did not go far enough. So Reagan had already put sanctions on South Africa. And Joe didn't feel they went far enough. And I'm not saying he's wrong. Sounds like Reagan was kind of like he was putting sanctions, though. But Whoopi Goldberg just said Joe Biden stops apartheid. That's what he did. Didn't sound like it. I mean, I'm just reading the actual record of events. Besides letting Whoopi go on a rant about it. I'm just reading what actually happened. So Reagan issues sanctions. Joe Biden grandstanding during hearings grills Reagan's Secretary of State about doing more sanctions. The following month, the Senate passed the Anti-Apartheid Act, which was subsequently vetoed by the president, who accused it of being economic warfare. So then Reagan played the game. But then they vetoed. The veto was overridden by Congress. And South Africa was sanctioned by the U.S. until the end of apartheid. And look, I'm not saying this wrong. I'm just saying, let's put context around this shit. But Joe was on the right side of history. He was on the right side of history. Hey, look, man, it's no black and white. There's going to be gray areas here. And we got to be honest enough to see it for what it is and to admit when there's a gray area. If not, then we're just as bad as the people we have contempt for because we're not keeping it real. Don't worry. There's more context. So Whoopi, who was trending today, was being lauded for this declarative statement about standing on the backs of great people like Joe Biden who stopped apartheid. And then apartheid was a horrible, horrific practice, and it should have been eradicated. And all the pressure the U.S. could put on South Africa to end that, yes, I'm for it. I support it. That's great. Here's the thing. Joe Biden didn't give a shit about black people. Joe Biden cared about politics. And Whoopi Goldberg, you're talking about Joe Biden, you're very specific, like almost laser-like focus on this one good thing. Now look, that was 86. It'll be 8 years later before Joe Biden wrote the crime bill that he's notoriously known for, that disproportionately impacted black people. Notice Whoopi's not talking about how great that was. So it's okay to help South Africans. Meanwhile, he himself excoriates black people in America, and Whoopi has no problem with that. Yeah, the old guard, the ones who's on their shoulders, we stand. Do we stand on those shoulders? We stand on the shoulders of the Crime Bill Joe, Jim Crow Joe. I don't think we want to stand on those shoulders. I remember back at that time, Lisa, if I'm not mistaken, Whoopi Goldberg was very active. She was nowhere near as rich as she is now. She was more zealous, right? 1984, 2 years before this great speech. Because see, the Jim Crow Joe didn't start out of nowhere. The motherfucker was Jim Crow. He was ramping up every means of police state action against poor people, particularly black people, for a decade before the crime bill. I wonder if Whoopi Goldberg ever spoke out against Joe Biden's bullshit in the 80s. Before the apartheid. I want to tell you guys, I think one of the reasons why Joe Biden was so outspoken here is because he needed to do something that made himself look less racist. Here it goes. Whatever the effects of the 94 crime bill, that Joe Biden's reasons for supporting it is only a piece of Biden's much longer history backing tough on crime policies. Here are some examples from his record, not my interpretations, not my ego, not my resentment. These are just facts. The Comprehensive Control Act, 1984, spearheaded by Biden and Senator Strom Thurmond. Is that one of the shoulders that we stand on, Whoopi? Biden and Strom Thurmond's shoulders, where they expanded federal drug trafficking penalties and civic asset forfeitures, which allow police to seize and absorb someone's property, whether it be cash, cars, guns, or something else, without even proving the person was guilty of a crime. Joe Biden. That was in 84. Weren't paying attention then, huh? Whoopi. Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 86. Same year that he was saying this about South Africa and how the poor blacks were catching hell in South Africa. He did the Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 86. This law, sponsored and partly written by Biden, ratcheted up penalties for drug crimes. It also created a big sentencing disparity between crack and cocaine, powder cocaine. Yeah, that's the guy. 10 times as much time for the way black people were consuming the drug because it was cheaper and the high was more instantaneous. 10 times the amount of time. Shit. I'm sorry. Damn. How about 100 times? This law, sponsored and partly written by Biden, ratcheted up penalties for drug crimes. It also created a big sentencing disparity between crack and powder cocaine. Even though the drugs are pharmacologically similar, the law made it so someone would need to possess 100 times the amount of powder cocaine to be eligible for the same mandatory minimum sentence for crack. See, for crack, which was predominantly in the black neighborhood, it was mandatory sentences. Not so much for the guys in the valley. But no, he wants to wax poetic. He wants to get all loud and say it with his chest about the blacks in South Africa. Meanwhile, blacks in America catching hell at his pen, at his hand. And where's Whoopi? I don't remember hearing Whoopi make whoopee about what the fuck Joe Biden was doing in 1986. $1988, we ain't done. 88. The Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 88. Once again, this law, co-sponsored by Joe Biden, whose shoulders we stand, increase prison sentences for drug possession, not dealers, Johnson. People who had some fucking weed, Whoopi. You know, probably what you were smoking with Ted Danson when he wanted to do blackface. Back when a sister act was a one-woman show on Broadway. Hey, man, I wouldn't come for you if you didn't come for us with this bullshit defending the old guard. And this is keep it real. Defending your damn wallet every chance you get. I don't got no problem with you selling the fuck out. A lot of older black people with money do this shit all the time. And white people, y'all been doing this since shit began. You've been selling us. Okay? So this ain't just about Whoopi. But today, I got time. Today, I got time. All these numbskulls running around retweeting this fucking speech by Joe Biden, up here clapping for Whoopi. Talking about she bodied dude, Hassan. Now, maybe Hassan just didn't want to lay your ass out. He had to contemplate in his mind how far he wants his career to go. Because you are saying shit that he might have to retort and demolish your reputation. Right there in that shop. In front of Stacey Abrams and the whole lot. I'm gonna end this tirade. Well, it's not a tirade, I'm sorry. This autopsy on how fucked up the old guard really was when it comes to black people. Black people with a substance abuse problem, or black people living beneath the poverty line, or black people with low unemployment, with high unemployment, lack of resources. But I want to point you to this before I end it. In 1989, 5 years before the crime bill that everyone talks about, at the height of the punitive anti-drug and mass incarceration politics, Joe Biden even went on national television to criticize a plan from George H.W. Bush to escalate the war on drugs. See, I fucked up, man, because Joe Biden went on TV to disagree with George H.W. Bush about how he was handling the war on drugs. And he was on TV contesting it. Whoopi, you know what I'm gonna say, don't you? Oh man, you know what I'm gonna say. And all those black comedians that kiss your ass because they all in the same old go along, get along gang. Shout out to Kwame Brown. Shout out to Faison Love. Shout out to Carcino. You know what I'm going to say. Joe Biden, ladies and gentlemen, he went on television and he disagreed with George H.W. Bush about his hard tactics against drugs and all the Negroes he was locking up. And he said this, he said, quite frankly, the president's plan is not tough enough. It's not bold enough or imaginative enough. It's not bold enough, tough enough, or imaginative enough to meet the crisis at hand. He called for harsher punishments for drug dealers and to hold every drug user accountable. Biden added, George H.W. Bush's plan doesn't include enough police officers to catch the violent thugs. Some tells me Joe Biden wasn't talking about white boys in the valley doing coke. And some tells me that's not who he's talking about when he says violent thugs. Smells like super predators. Oh, not enough prosecutors to convict them and not enough judges to sentence them. Man, Joe Biden was making a play to get rid of all y'all motherfuckers. All the Negroes gotta go. All the poor Negroes. Lock them all up, throw away the key. Not enough prison cells. Not enough prison cells to put them away for a long time. This was a direct call for mass incarceration. National TV. Outrighting the Republican president. My right, your left. Should do this. Outright, right flanking. Sort of like what he did to Trump in a lot of ways. Yeah, he ran to the right on a lot of shit, like foreign policy. Yeah, just in 2020. Whoopi, it's okay. Like, once again, it's okay if you secure your bag. I get it. We come from disenfranchised people. We don't have the support, the resources. We live in a racist country. Yada, 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 yada. I get it. But you do not have a right to change the historical record and cherry pick and leave out all of this shit. All of this shit that matters. If young people want to challenge the system, they should. It's their country at this point. You about to leave. I will be joining you not far from, not far after. Well, who knows? You may outlive me because I have no health care. I'm sure they could patch you up for the next 40 years. But if young people want to challenge the status quo, I support them doing it. It is not courageous to defend a Democratic president as a Democrat. What courageous would be you criticizing a Democratic president and challenging the status quo. And that goes for all y'all. You don't know what a patriot is. And stop getting your panties in a bunch every time somebody has an unmitigated goal to challenge your paymasters, your donors, and the people that signed your goddamn checks. Because that's really what it's all about. Making sure you secure the bag. Let me ask you something. Do they know us? When I say they, I mean the talking heads on cable news. Do they know you? I mean, they talk about the world as if it's a sport. They play political games, report on our pain, rack our brain to feed the stock exchange, but do they know us? Do they know what we care about? Nope. They're too far away. They can't see us. They can't feel us. They can't relate to us. See, when you want to know what's going on in your world, trust someone who lives in your world. Subscribe.